Hi friends, Prepared Suburbanite here. Wanted to take a few minutes to kind of go over some of the things that I've been working on over the last few weeks. Took an inventory of all the gear in my EDC bags, the get home bags, the bug out bags, 72-hour bags, our inch bag, and tried to really get a good inventory of what I had. And what I found was, rather than dealing with 2 is 1 and 1 is none, which is a redundancy, so that you've got backups for a lot of the things that you need, I was really tending towards duplication, and that duplication was causing wasted space. So with that said, trying to plan for building on your preps and on the bags that you carry and the gear that you carry, you should be planning to complement the gear that's in your EDC bag, to complement that against what's in your get home bag, within your 72-hour bag, and within your bug out bag. And even if you've got an inch bag, because you're never coming home, you want to make sure that you're just not duplicating, but you've got sufficient redundancy for the things that you're really going to need. Some of the things that come into play as I was trying to plan this out and make sure that I was trying to get everything together the right way was, you first got to consider, or I had to consider, what condition you're up against. For the most part, we all travel in a kind of a green mode where there's no imminent danger. It's just routine day-to-day kind of activities. You're going to the bank, you're doing chores, going to the grocery store, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, nothing special going on. There hasn't been any imminent threats. One level above that is when, okay, now there's a serious storm coming. You've got National Weather Service warnings and those kinds of things posted for tornadoes, hurricanes, severe thunderstorms. That's one kind of yellow type scenario. When you get into orange, you're really talking about imminent danger, and that could range from the storm is upon us to the North Koreans have launched their missiles. ISIS has bombed Cleveland or wherever they're going to bomb, and it's imminent. It's about to happen, and we're getting warnings. Civil defense is on alert. The federal government is issuing warnings. And then you got condition red, where, okay, it's happening. The bombs are dropped. The damage is being reported. CNN's still on the air, and then it goes off. Now what are you going to do? All right. So you've got all those conditions to consider. I'm saying that you're probably spending 98% of your time in a condition green type scenario. Everything's routine. There isn't any threats. It's just day-to-day kind of activity. And over the last few years, there may have been a couple of occasions where we've transgressed or progressed into condition yellow and possibly even into condition orange. I think the last time we actually had a condition red type situation was September 11th, 2001, when the World Trade Centers came down. Another thing that you've got to take into consideration is where you are, how far away from home you are. If you're still at home, that's one thing. You don't have to get home, and you don't need a get-home bag, a 72-hour bag, a bug-out bag, anything like that, but you do want to make sure that your everyday carry is sufficient to get you going. If the lights go out, if the storm does hit, that kind of a thing, that you've got access to your flashlights, to your fire-making stuff, anything that you're really going to need, that extra water, those kinds of things. Most of us spend a majority of our time within that range from home to maybe 10 miles away, doing simple errands, going to the grocery store, going to the bank, shopping here, going to church, those kinds of things. and it's usually within 10 miles. And I'm going to say that probably 80% of our travel in and about is within 10 miles, unless maybe you work 20 miles away, and then you've got a slightly different scenario. For me, the majority of my time is spent either at home or within 10 miles of home, and I'm going to say it's about 80% of the time. The other 20, maybe 15% of the time, I'm 10 to 30 miles away from home. I've got two daughters, one that lives about 30 miles north and one that lives about 30 miles south, and we visit them a couple of times a month. And you know, you're 30 miles away from home. What are you going to need? Is it sufficient just for your everyday carry stuff? Probably not. Do you need a get-home bag? Probably should have one packed in the Jeep. The other 5% of the time, going to be over 30 miles away, but maybe less than 100, somewhere in that range. Day trip, going here, visiting relatives. Maybe you're on a regional or a local business trip, that kind of a thing. But it's a little bit farther. 30 miles, you can probably hoof it in a day or a day and a half. 100 miles, now you're going to be needing to plan a little bit further ahead. That's your get-home bag and possibly even a 72-hour bag. And they can be the same, but they can also be two different bags that complement each other to reduce the chances of duplication, make sure that you're embracing the redundancy that you require, and give you the right gear to make yourself available to get home. The third scenario, as far as distance goes, is those places where you're going to be more than 100 miles away. Maybe 200, maybe 300. Primary bug-out location for us is about 60 miles away. Secondary bug-out location is 535 miles away. Now, am I going to be able to make it 535 miles on a bug-out bag that's maybe designed for a week's worth of survival support in a condition red type situation? I don't know, but you got to think about that. Now, your circumstances are going to be different. I'm retired. I get to spend the majority of my time at home and within 10 miles of my house. There isn't really anything that draws me any further away than that, except a couple of times a month that we may go visit our kids that are 25 or 30 miles away. So with that said, I decided to go take an inventory of all the stuff that I had, try to get it organized and give it some priorities on what you're going to need and what's the best scenario that gear's designed for. In the videos that follow, I'm going to get into some of the detail and how I planned it out so that I had enough stuff in an everyday carry situation on my person that I felt comfortable that I was prepared for pretty much anything that could happen at home. The everyday bag, everyday carry bag, this one here, I carry in my Jeep all times, and what it's got in it is enough to make sure that I've got the tools, the equipment, and the gear so that I can survive, that I have the convenience items that I need if I'm stranded, that I've got the right kinds of things if the weather turns inclement on me. My get-home bag, that's going to be tossed in the Jeep when I know I'm going to be traveling beyond that 10 to 30 mile, or within that 10 to 30 mile range. That's going to be with me. In fact, that get-home bag is with us pretty much all the time. And that's my 72-hour bag as well. I didn't feel I needed two different bags for basically the same purpose based on my particular circumstance. So my get-home bag is my 72-hour bag. And it's got enough to allow me to make my way home basically within 72 hours. And what it's got, covering the 5 C's or the 10 C's, and I came up with another half a dozen C's on top of that, and we'll get into that in some future videos. The bug out bag, if I planned out the EDC bag and the get home bag the right way, my bug out bag is going to complement the equipment in those, and it's going to be modular enough that I should be able to take the key components out of the EDC bag, out of the get home bag, and throw them in the bug out bag, swap things out to make sure I'm not being redundant, but I do have the right equipment if I've got to bug out and go that 100 to 500 miles away. The inch bag, well, if I'm never coming home, there's a lot of extra stuff that's going with me. Cook stoves, big tents, extra gasoline, those kinds of things. That's what's going to be in the inch compartment. It's not all going to fit in one bag because it's hard to get 20 gallons of gas in a bag. But trying to plan ahead, what are you going to need with you? If you do get stranded and you're 75 or 80 miles from home, you can't be carrying 3 bags. You can't be carrying your everyday carry bag, can't be carrying your get home bag, and you can't be carrying your bug out bag. You're going to weight yourself right down. So you've got to be modular in your thinking when you come to it, and you've got to make sure that you're building on your preparedness in each one of those bags. The videos to follow, and I'm going to start with everyday carry and the everyday carry bag, then progress to the get home and 72-hour bag concepts, and then get into the bug out bags, and then finally get into the inch bags. And I'm going to prioritize, and I'm going to try to show you the plan that I put into place to make sure that I've got 2 is 1, 1 is none covered, but that I'm not wallowing in duplication. Thanks for sticking with us. Be good, be safe, and be prepared always.